I had the most absurd nightmare. I was poor and no one liked me. I lost my job, I'd lost my house, Penelope hated me, and it was all because of this terrible man, Lou Diamond.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Thrive Loud listeners, she's back. The CEO of Executive Essentials. She's celebrating a bookiversary, which I don't even know if that's a real term, but we're gonna patent it by the end of the show. And she and I are here to chat about it. She's my connecting sister from another mister, and back for a special Thrive Loud catch-up episode. Michelle Lederman, how are you today?
I'm back.
By popular demand. You know, we do the yin and yang of those that are master connectors, and she and I are actually twins, which most people don't know, but it's wonderful to always hear what's going on with you, hear how things are going, catch up with you, and see what's going on in your world. So, Michelle, give us an update. What have you been up to?
I just love your energy, Lou.
I have energy? Oh, I don't have energy. Maybe a little bit. Okay.
This is why we are, told we're twins, with the exception of our hair.
Yes, of course.
What have I been up to? It has been crazy. It has just been so amazing to hear from people who have been impacted by the book and these little notes that you get. And I know you can relate to this. When somebody comes and says, this is what I did with it, or this is how it impacted me, or this is, who I gave it to and what they said about it. And I was talking to somebody yesterday and I said, that's what fills my heart.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going.
And listeners, the book, of course, is The Connector's Advantage. We'll put all the links in there. We'll do a plug section later. I guess what I wanted to talk about, and because both of us are speakers as well as consultants and helping people figure out ways to connect. When you present, do you feel like you go to the book as kind of like the Bible or the source for your content and the way that you're communicating to customers? Or it's a sense of like, because every now and then I'll tap back into the book and hit a certain theme when I'm speaking to somebody, or it's part of a keynote component. Of late, I guess, more notably, have you been doing that in this bookiversary type of thing, realizing how much great value there is in there?
I would agree that it's a component. I think I pull from a lot of different sources because, we've been doing this a really long time. And before I was actually doing this, I was one of the people that, would be in my audiences now. So I was a manager in corporate America. I worked in finance. I worked on a trading floor. I was managing people at the age of 22. I always say I teach all the mistakes I ever made. And so I have that decade of experience in the field. I pull on both of my books. I pull on my training experience. I pull on my coaching experience. I pull stories out of everywhere because I love a good story, and use all of that to help in whatever the context is in that moment. So, I had somebody reach out and say, I listened to your How to Get What You Want webinar. And now I want you to come in and do strategic planning. So a lot of times people link it the way that they think about it. And you follow those kind of synapses, but it all does come back to the same thing. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say this. It all comes back to connection and relationship, because that's going to drive how you work with others, how you close the deal, how you get hired, how you get promoted, how you feel going to work every day. All of it is founded in connection.
Michelle, this is a good question. We're going to get tactical, because one of the things I like about you is that it's not just about theory. You actually bring those real examples in. Lately, what has been an area in the workplace where people are not connecting? Maybe a behavior they're putting into play, or a certain thing that's affected their culture, something you're seeing more often than not in the companies and great, amazing clients you're helping to better connect with.
What's interesting is I don't think it's even that new, but I think it's been amplified because of all the stress that people have now. We are pulled in so many different directions, whether it's family or volunteering or and work is not 9 to 5. I said something about 9 to 5 to my husband. He goes, that's a myth. Like, that's not real. And so because of the demands that we have in our lives and the expectation for the responsiveness because we're always connected, people are more reactive than ever before.
Yeah.
And they may know that it's not right. Even in the moment, they may know this is not the most productive energy I can bring right now. This is not going to serve me well going down the road. But because of all of the emotion and all the stress and all the demands kind of boiling up in a moment where it might trigger something, we are more reactive and we are not applying the concepts that you and I teach and that we know make that difference.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great point. There's a stress component, and people will go maybe sometimes to what's fastest, where it might not necessarily be what is the best solution on how you can connect with someone. Case in point, they might choose to use just an email in an inappropriate way versus recognizing it's a moment for them to connect in person and have a meeting because it was faster that way. And meanwhile, miscommunication then instills, and then you've created a disaster. Have you seen a lot of that?
Speed. Yeah, I think speed is one component of it, but I think the other component is almost like what they need right then and right now. It's this release. It's this moment in their brain. Right? I mean, we all can feel that. We all can relate to that. Just stop talking, or don't ask me, or don't interrupt, or whatever it is. And so we just have to let it pop. And so here's a great example. Yesterday, I went to the doctor with my mom. She's been sick with this cough for a year. They sent her to a million doctors. I got her a new GP because, I'm like, there needs to be somebody following. And this was the first time I was meeting her new GP. I went with her to the meeting, and it was supposed to be a 3:30 appointment. The office thought it was 3. And so when she didn't show up at 3, they made her 4, but she showed up at 3:30. So anyway, right. So there was definitely a miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
And by 4:15, we were getting a little frustrated. My mom went out, and so the doctor came in really defensive. And, we felt attacked, and I said, I'm not attacking you. And she just kept on kind of defending herself. And I said, I feel like you're being really defensive. And again, she was just, and she, I think she felt badly, and I think she was defending herself. And so I took a breath and I said, let's just take a step back and talk about her cough, while we're here.
Right.
And every time I started a sentence, she cut me off. And I very calmly said, can I finish a sentence? And I was clearly getting frustrated, but I kept that calm tone of voice. And in the moment, I wanted to let loose, being like, well, your office, right? Because we were pissed. We were waiting there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But I stayed calm, and so she cut me off when she goes, of course you can finish your sentence. And so I start talking again, and she cut me off again, like literally 5 words later. And I said, I don't know if you realize you're doing this. I said, but every time I start a sentence, you interrupt me.
Right.
And so it is helping somebody recognize where they are to help them shift the energy rather than escalate that energy. I talk about you like practical. I'm going to give you some practical. I talk about our most common energy responses to people. And in this moment, I could have added fuel to the fire, meaning I could have escalated and amplified her emotion, triggering my emotion. I could have extracted myself and stormed out, walked away, right? But what I did was try to meet somebody just under where they were. So I wasn't uber calm. I was clearly managing, but I was not escalating.
Right.
And within about another 5 or so minutes, we had a reversal from the doctor. And by the end, she was apologizing for the way it started. She said, please give me another chance,
Yeah. Well, and a lot of this, look, we know this. It's a listening level, to her point of her cutting you off. She's literally just focused on her thing and not even absorbing anything that you're saying and trying to process it, probably because other stress factors are happening in her world, not just you, the other patients in the place, the other activities. Why they're delayed is probably maybe they're shorthanded. You never know, right? And standing in their shoes is always hard. And I think great leaders figure out how to do what you are doing more often, even in those stressful times. I'll even jump and say, especially in those stressful times, because that is when you actually will benefit from the connector's advantage. Being able to be that connecting to that person, and I'm understanding what's going on in their world. I understand them. I've got a lot of stuff. They got to hear it too. But that component of not snapping, not being at first level, making it all about me and all of that is going to help bring you closer together.
And what you're describing is actually the first mindset I talk about in the Connector's Advantage. So it's 7 mindsets to grow your influence and impact. And the first mindset is to be open and accepting. And that's open and accepting of others as well as ourselves. And give ourselves a little bit of break. But when we're open to being wrong. Mm-hmm. And we try to keep ourselves in a place of curiosity. Yeah. Rather than conclusion.
We love being curious. And it's great. It is funny. By the way, thank you for sharing the story. Hopefully everything's okay with your mom. And, when you realize that these are things that happen every single day, I love how, by the way, you talked about that no one knows what 9 to 5, it's unrealistic. I think recently Dolly Parton was being honored at some ceremonial award ceremony. I can't remember what it was, Country Music Awards. And I was explaining to my daughter, what song did she sing? And the first thing that came to my mind was 9 to 5. And she was like, what does that mean?
Now I just want to do my nails thing.
Exactly. I'm like, oh my God, that's just classic. However, there is an important part of this, and that is the ability to recognize that we are all working all the time, and being able to take those breaks. I want to ask a question of you personally. I've asked this probably before. The last time you were on the show, I asked, what practice do you seek when you're having trouble thriving? What you do. I want to know if there's a certain time of day that you are better at your best. Some people are morning people, late night people. What is your super time of day that you're the most productive?
It's probably both. So it's weird.
Both? What do you mean, like in the night and in the...
Right, but not in between.
Okay.
So right before I have to take my kids to school, we leave the house around 7:55 in the morning. And I probably can get to my office by about 7:30 in the morning. And that little 20-minute moment in the morning where I can just clear my email, make sure nothing's urgent, do a couple things, and feel like when I do come back to my desk, I feel fresh because I took care of that little, what we start to do when we come to our desk is whatever's in our face. And so I find that 20 minutes of getting things out of my face so that when I regroup, I can have more focused time. But then you're dead by 3:00. My kids come home from school and I always want to come out and say hello. And my son, my 14-year-old son watches General Hospital with me. I love it. And so when he comes home, he's like,
that show is still on TV. Unbelievable.
It is. Unbelievable. It is.
Is Luke and Laura still alive? Are they still together? No.
Laura is still on it. Luke is in Amsterdam right now. I can tell you all the synopsis for anybody who watches
the show. It's another podcast show. We will put that onto another
I have been watching since probably the late 70s.
Oh, dear God.
Only because my mom and my sister watched, and then now my son watches, which just makes me joyous. So he'll come home at 3:00 and be like, GH? And so I take that break, and then what happens is I feel the day, and it's really hard, even though I shouldn't be stopping working that early. It's hard to get back to my desk. And so sometimes at 8 p.m., I get back into my desk, and again, I get this productive time because I had that couch time. And so sometimes at 10 o'clock at night, I'm super productive.
So that's great. And I bring this up because it's one of the things. I had a conversation with a large sales group and working with the most senior leader in this company. And, a lot of sales teams like to have quick huddles in the beginning of the day or the end of the day. Everyone's got their thing. And what I said, I go, well, what's probably best for you might not be best for everybody on the team. So what they actually did, which is pretty cool, they rotate who leads this very quick 10-minute huddle. And based on which person it is and where they're the best, they actually pick the time slots that they're running and leading those particular meetings. So it's not always the same time. It also helps these other people adapt and connect with each other. I thought it was pretty brilliant. So I was very curious of your own productivity. What do you think about that? Do you like that concept?
I absolutely love that concept. And it's one of the things I teach when I talk about how we connect with diverse styles and personalities in the workplace is understanding that the natural born leader isn't always the person who should be leading.
Right.
And, we all know this from, college when you had group projects and there was somebody who always kind of stepped up. And I'll be honest, I was that person because,
somehow that doesn't surprise me.
I was like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm just going to take charge and just, manage all of this because I can. And I, then I control freak, I'll just acknowledge. Anyway, but my point being, we've all been in those moments where we've been frustrated about how different people work.
Right.
And what I teach is that you have to think about what the goal is and then choose the leader based on the goal, not based on the personality style.
It's such a true thing. And it's funny because it does, you will find, by the way, that they'll find times that don't work. Even you have that late night person who everybody's off, and then they some people can adapt to it, which is also good because that enables people to kind of find that best way to work in those windows, or more notably, not work in those windows, which I kind of like. Hey, so let's talk about, I guess, you were talking about being in the audience of hearing certain things. Have you recently been in the audience and heard a message from another speaker, another consultant, another person of industry, whatever it might be, where something really resonated with you that was kind of new and was like, huh, that's a cool thing. I like what I'm hearing. Anything of late that you've heard?
You and I were both at the Kelly Swanson meeting, and she's an amazing storyteller. And I've heard her speak before, and yet I always pull away a little nugget. And as I was sitting there in her audience, I actually changed the opening to my talk, the one I mentioned earlier, How to Get What You Want, because I tend to start a talk with a question. And I think, sharing a little bit of my story helps people connect. And the idea that we connect through stories, but we connect through authenticity, and we connect quickly. And I always say that it's really hard to change a first impression. Even though I'm teaching you how to stay open and stay in curiosity and be open to being wrong and all the questions to slow your thinking down and all of this stuff, it is our natural inclination. And so if you can show who you are quickly, and I'm going to be more effective at doing that with a story than I am with a question.
I like it. Let's do this. You've got this book anniversary coming up, actually, as we are launching this here at the very first week of March. Share with the listeners a little bit about what's going on, what you're doing, promotions you got going on, all that social media fun, and where they could find you. We will put it in the show notes, but they're going to love hearing it from you.
Awesome. So I think we are coining the phrase Bookiversary. So the week this comes out will be my 1-year Bookiversary for the Connector's Advantage. And so I want to give back and say thank you for all the support. We hit a lot of top lists and ranks and just amazing. We've gone into at least 3 languages so far. And actually we've got a couple more that have shown interest. So it's just been an amazing year. And to thank all of those that have supported, I am putting the price of the Kindle book to 99 cents on March 10th. It's a Tuesday. So March 10th, 99 cents. March 11th, it's going to go to $1.99. March 12th, it'll be $2.99. And then that Friday the 13th, which, just love that it's Friday the 13th.
That's great.
It goes back to the regular price. So for 3 days, you can get the book really cheap. You can help me. I think I might be really close to my 100 reviews that I've been looking for on Amazon. But I love all those honest reviews. We also have some book bonuses. So if you decide to go paperback, you can get the Kindle. But if you get a paperback and you buy 2, I have a buy one, gift one. And there's all of these special bonuses that I give you on the website. And if you just go to the my website, which is Michelle with 2 L's, Tillis, Tillis, Lederman, Lederman.com, and you click on the book, you'll see a little tab for the book bonuses to see all the goodies I give away. Spectacular.
And I'm glad that the Bookiversary thing you now have going on. I could see a whole revenue stream coming to you from that. Last words here. What are you most excited about? We're recording this early 2020. What are you most excited about for this year?
Taking it easy.
Is that like your word for the year? Like, did you do one of those? Like, or is that your motto? Taking it easy.
Am I allowed to curse on your show?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Okay. When somebody asked me one of my goals for the year, I said, to be okay not giving a shit.
Nice.
And what I mean by that, for all those people who are like, I was going to hire her, no, is that sometimes we become perfectionists and we think everything is of critical importance, and that I need to choose the things to let go of. and to be okay letting go of some of that stuff to focus where I really need to focus. And so when you said, like, what's been going on with you? And I said, it's been crazy, because I said my goal for 2020 was to take it easy, to pull back a little bit. And then 7 leads come in one day.
Maybe everybody should try this tactic, and maybe something.
It's been a crazy couple of weeks with all of these requests coming in. I'm going, does the universe not recognize that I'm trying to slow down? But it's been fabulous, because I love what I do and I love being in front of people. And so I'm always excited to get the message out there. And so I just have to find other things to let go of.
Michelle Lederman, thank you so much for coming on Thrive Loud today.
Thanks, Lou.
And to all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Thrive Loud. Or find us on the web at thriveloud.com.